Hey guys, it's Bladescribe back with more Genshin Impact. Today's video is going to be a review of the Zhongli banner. I'm sorry this came out a little late because this banner has been causing quite a lot of controversies. Similar to my other videos, I'll be reviewing the characters and then you can decide if the banner is worth pulling or not. Without further ado, let's talk about Zhongli. Okay, the thing about Zhongli is he's too high on the husbando tier list, so it makes no sense to skip him. End of discussion. No, but seriously, if that's how you feel for any characters, there's no reason for any discussion for every single banner, right? If you guys pull because you guys love the aesthetics and all that, there is nothing to see and talk about. This video is more suitable for those that care about the power level and the potential synergies of a character and whether a 5-star that can cost upwards to $360 is worth it. I know the controversy lies in the fact that a lot of people just love his aesthetics but get really disappointed that his performance isn't up to par as a 5-star. So, for the real discussion, first of all, it's possible that it's taking me a little longer to fully understand Zhongli's potential than Child, because there was never any controversy regarding Child's damage potential as long as there was a way to manage his melee cooldown. But with Zhongli, the situation is a bit more complex with him being Geo, the weakest element in the game, or rather, the value of tankiness is still not fully fleshed out in the state of the game right now. The most difficult content in the game currently is the Spiral Abyss Floor 12. Only one of the chambers doesn't really have a time limit, but basically the first and the third chamber are DPS check runs. If the entire floors are designed like the second chamber, then I agree that tankiness would have a higher value as the runs are more like endurance runs rather than as DPS race runs. But even in endurance runs, it's better to stretch the limits of your DPS than to be as tanky as possible if you want to have a faster clear speed. It's similar to why healers aren't as high a priority than your DPS carries. The reason why I bring this all up is because Zhongli's best potential is as a burst or utility support rather than as a carry. He is only very slightly better than Xiangling, who is a free 4-star character, and Xiangling is Pyro, which is highly favored on floor 12 Abyss, and her kits all add more damage and she has access to the melt reaction. So for Zhongli, instead of as a carry, the two best things are actually his health E, which produces the best shield in the game due to his strength and cooldown, and secondly, his ultimate, which is a very low energy cost and a short CC. But as a support, he is of course inevitably compared to Venti, the best 5-star support in the game, which some people think is unfair, but actually I think it's fair because Animo is the other support element. It would be unfair to compare him to a DPS character like Diluc or Klee. Now, Venti's ultimate has a higher cost, but this isn't a problem for Venti because of how ridiculous his energy generation is on his E, and for a slightly higher cost, the ultimate can very easily be at 100% uptime, and while it isn't a true CC, it groups mobs together and does a semi-CC for more than twice the duration of Zhongli's ultimate. So here's the thing, it's not about expecting every single 5-star as a DPS. Most of us are not expecting Venti to be DPS, right? I just think that if a 5-star character is this expensive, people shouldn't only feel like it's a good character to pull when compared to the middle tier 4-star characters. But at the end of the day, if you really want to pull him, I can say this about him. Zhongli's shield can make strong teams run the game more smoothly. The reason why this isn't that interesting to most people out there is because the game's most difficult content right now involves a DPS check. So unless you're wailing, it is very unlikely that you have met the DPS threshold necessary in this game. The best potential for Zhongli is to replace the healer spot, which is usually the weakest contributor of DPS in your team. When that becomes a possibility, Zhongli does start to shine. Okay, I'm glad that's over because that was the most difficult section of this video. Let's move on to the new 4-star Xinyan. Despite carrying a claymore, Xinyan is more appropriately played as burst support rather than as the primary DPS. Her basic attack strings aren't bad, but they aren't great either. Xinyan has a bias towards physical damage, but she is awkwardly a pyro character. Normally, physical damage team comps want to take advantage of the superconduct debuff. It means you have no choice but to add at least 2 more characters with Xinyan in order to gain access to superconduct, and after that, you're left with just 1 slot. I think similar to Diona, Xinyan was designed with floor 12 in mind. When people bring Razor on floor 12, even when there isn't a true synergy between Razor and any pyro characters, you probably still want to bring a pyro character as a support to help tear down the Cryo Fatui shield. So instead of bringing Amber, you can have the choice of bringing Xinyan, which also provides a cleanse against the condensed ice. That said, I think Xiangling is one of the natural pairings for Xinyan because Xiangling is a physical DPS. What Xinyan provides for Xiangling is the cleanse, the access to Claymore, and slight physical damage buffs. Otherwise, in general situations, I think Xinyan doesn't really fit into anywhere perfectly at the moment. Razor normally wants to have 2 cryo units, and the last slot is either another Electro or a Hydro unit. If you run a Xiangling DPS though, and you're very keen on Xinyan, it gets really interesting at the second constellation, where her ultimate has a 100% crit rate, so you can just stack crit damage on Xinyan and see stupid big numbers on her. So if you guys play Xiangling or Razor as the main DPS, Xinyan is actually a pretty decent pool. Next, Chongyun. Chongyun is one of the most important enablers for melt comps, but the caveat is that he only works in a very specific setup. He pairs very well with Bennett, and he can also work in a melt comp with Diluc and Xiangling. I think Chongyun will be highly relevant to more and more cryo melee units in the future. For example, pairing Chongyun with Kaeya, when you use Kaeya as the primary DPS, means that you can actually stack Cryo Cup on Kaeya, and Kaeya no longer has a split damage. It's quite funny how the higher Chongyun's constellations go, the more he becomes like a burst support DPS character, and I think this isn't just a novelty kind of thing. For example, if Chongyun has unlocked his 4th constellation, he can also generate energy by DPSing on the field. It means that he can probably be the only cryo unit in a game with double pyro, for example, and he can still act as a cryo aura unit, a battery unit, and a semi-decent DPS unit, while Xiangling will deal a large amount of damage through her Pyronado. Overall, I think he's one of the best supports in the game right now because the 2 best reactions are Melt and Vaporize. The most viable Melt team involves Chongyun, and the most viable Vaporize team involves Xingqiu. In that sense, Chongyun is arguably just as important as Xingqiu, even though Chongyun is less flexible in team composition. Lastly, Razor. Arguably the best 4-star to pull this time, and also the shortest to talk about. For those of you that don't have enough carries in your roster, Razor is definitely the closest to a 5-star rank in terms of damage. On top of that, the game's current content actually favors Razor on the higher floors of Spiral Abyss. There will be many cryo enemies, so it's a very natural environment for Razor to get the superconduct debuff. If you're serious about Razor, hopefully you can get to at least his 4th constellation. Otherwise, Razor is still strong enough even at Constellation 0. Razor is one of the cheapest carries to build in the game because even the 3-star weapon is quite strong on Razor. On top of that, the 4-star craftable Claymore is one of the best craftables in the game. Another reason is Kaeya is Razor's best enabler. Kaeya doesn't require much investment to be useful and is freely given to us. Okay, as usual, I'll review the weapon banner as well. Favonius weapons are useful even though they tend to be the poor man's sack weapons. If you couldn't pull a sack weapon in earlier banners, Favonius weapons are the answer for you. Favonius Warbow is the second best alternative for characters like Diona and Venti. That said, the best weapon out of the raid top this time is the Dragon's Bane, which is the best weapon for support Xiangling. To wrap it all up, here are my personal recommendations. The 4-star characters in this banner are incredibly useful. So if you're going to spend all of your Primogems, I would recommend spending them all on the character banner and not on the weapon banner, unless you have reached your goal of say Max Constellation Razor. Razor is a great carry, Chongyun is a great support with support carry potential, Xinyan is one of the few ways you can get a cleanse on floor 12. Zhongli as a 5-star actually has some value for people that have stacked teams. If you want 4-star but you are afraid of Zhongli, think of it this way, I rate him as the second worst 5-star character ahead of Chi-Chi. if you are facing a 50-50 pity, even if you get Zhongli, he's not the worst 5-star character you can pull. It's understandable if you want to save your pity for the next banners, but bear in mind that in terms of power level, the most promising ones are Ayaka and Xiao, who are still going to be some time away. From what I have heard, Albedo and Gangyu also seem to be rather underwhelming as 5-star, so if your goals revolve around 4-star characters, then the current banner is really worth pulling. Getting a C2 for any of the 4-star characters this banner are completely worth it. That's it from me guys. I'll probably do a 5-star tier list on the next video to talk to you guys more about why I feel these characters are at that power level. If you find this video useful, please leave a like and subscribe for more Genshin Impact. Otherwise, as always, feel free to leave any comments regarding anything I've said and I'll do my best to respond to them. Have a good one guys. Bye bye.